Hello and welcome to our lesson of product of powers property, a more advanced look. First thing we need to do is talk about the definition. What does all that mean? When we're multiplying, that's the product. Exponents, those are the powers. The exponents are added together instead of multiplied. So if we say we want the product, meaning we're going to multiply, of 4x quintupled, that means to the fifth, and we're going to multiply it by 3x squared, we're going to get an answer of 12x to the 7th power. Because right here, we've got a 5 and a 2, and that made 7 when we added them. But let's take a closer look at this. Exponents live by different rules. If the coefficients are being multiplied, that means the exponents are added. So take a look, like what we just did. Those coefficients right there, 4 and 3, 4 times 3 is 12. That's where we got the 12 from. But look at your exponents. You've got a 5 and a 2, and you're adding them together, and that's where we got that 7 from. The coefficients of both the x variables must be multiplied, so you have 4 times 3 equals 12. Just like we said, that's where that 12 comes from. Now look at the exponents. Remember, if it says multiply, you don't actually do it, you actually add it. The exponents are added together, so that 5 plus 2 got us 7, which is why in the answer you have x to the 7th. Let's try some. You've got coefficients, and they have to be multiplied like normal. So if you're going to take 1/4 and multiply it by 2, remember, make that a fraction, and just multiply straight across. So you've got 2/4. If you want to reduce it, you can make it 1/2. Either way is correct. And then we do not multiply those exponents, we add them. So we're going to take 9 and add 4. And if you have 9 plus 4, you're going to get 13. So your final answer altogether is going to be 1/2 x to the 13th power. Now let's take a look at the other one. They want you to take 3z and multiply it by another z, and you've got 1/2 and 3 as your exponents. So 3 times the coefficient right there, it's not written, so it's assumed to be 1. 3 times 1 is going to be 3. Now take a look at those exponents. You've got 1/2 and you've got 3. That means you're adding them. So you're going to take 1/2 and you're going to add 3. So if you have 3 and you add a half, you have 3 1/2. But you can't write an exponent as a mixed number. You're going to have to make it to an improper fraction. So if you remember, you multiply the whole times the denominator and then add the numerator. So it's 3 times 2 plus 1. So it's 6 plus 1 is 7. So that's really 7/2. So your final answer is going to be 3z to the 7/2. We added the exponents and we multiplied the coefficients. Let's take another look at some more. Now these are decimals, but it doesn't matter, you're still going to multiply them. So you're going to take 2.5 and you're going to multiply it by 4.5. And when you do that, you're going to end up with 11.25. Those are coefficients, so we multiply them. Now here comes the weird one, it's the exponents. You don't multiply them, you add them. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So your final answer is going to actually be 11.25 m to the 2nd, or m squared, which either way is correct. Now take a look at the next one. You've got an 1/8 s and 4/6 s. You have to multiply them. So if you're taking 1/8 and you're multiplying it by 4/6, remember with fractions you just multiply straight across, so 4 times 1 is 4. And 8 times 6 is 48. And you can reduce it by 4. So 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 48 12 times. So that's your coefficient, because we did all that multiplication. Now if you're looking at your exponents, you don't multiply them, you have to add them together. So you've got a 1/2, and you're adding 2/4. Take a look right here. 2/4, that's the same thing as writing a 1/2. So you can actually have 1/2 plus 1/2, and if you have a 1/2 and you add another 1/2, you have a whole. So it turns out your final answer is going to be 1/12 Those were your multiplied coefficients. It's going to be 1/12 s to the 1 was your exponent, the first power. And usually if it's a coefficient raised to the power of 1, you don't usually write the power of 1, you just leave it as the coefficient only, or as the variable only. So if you have the variable raised to the power of 1, it's going to stay that way, but we just don't write 1. So your final answer right here is 1/12 s. Just a quick review. When the equation says to multiply exponents, don't multiply the exponents. Add the exponents. They always take one step back from what they're being told to do. Multiply the coefficients like normal. All those whole numbers that we multiplied, do it like normal. They're following the rules. But remember, add the exponents and don't multiply them. And that's it for our lesson today on product of powers property, a more advanced look.